Hey everyone, welcome to Fancounters for this week. I'm Nick and I'm back here with
Elizabeth.
And this week we've got a guest who is from our hometown. Now we record the show just outside Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we are very lucky to find somebody famous from our state that doesn't play sports.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's unusual. Michael Maize has been seen on many hit television shows, including Blue Bloods, Hawaii Five-0, The Blacklist, and True Blood. He's currently starring in Season 4 of Gotham, which premiered last week on September 21st. So going forward, make sure you tune in on Thursday nights to see him there. He's also starring in a movie called Stano. That's going to be out in 2018. He's going to tell us about that today. And he's also in Syfy's forthcoming series Happy, which premieres on November 29th. Along with being busy with all of those acting gigs, he's got a passion for making a difference in his community through various charitable roles, and we'll certainly be asking him about that. We're going to get to him in just a little bit. But first of all, Elizabeth, this week you did something that I have always wanted to do and have yet to been asked to do it, and that would be jury duty.
This was indeed the second time I was asked to do jury duty.
Is it the second? Had you been on a jury the first time?
I did not. I got dismissed the first one.
Okay.
The first one was in Milwaukee County, which is a much larger pool of people. And then this one was in Waukesha County, which is the county that we record in and both you and I live in.
Right.
And it was actually a pretty painless event.
Okay. I would like to hear. I've never been on jury duty before.
So they send you a piece of paper and give you a jury number and a phone number to call in. And Sunday night, I called in to find out I was not needed on Monday.
Which is good because we were going to record something that day.
Because we were here in the booth. Mm-hmm. And then on Monday night, I called in and was informed that I was needed the next day at 8 a.m.
Darn.
Yeah,
exciting story for me, darn for you.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit more complicated when you have children because I had to get one on the bus and then hope to heaven the second one got himself on the bus. So I showed up at the courthouse at 7:45 as I was told to be there. And you kind of sit in a room. You get a little sticker that says I'm a juror so that you kind of can walk around the courthouse. This is only after going through the wonderful screening security process that now all federal buildings have. And so you sit down in this jury services room and you wait. You wait for everybody else to show up. At one point, we watched an 11-minute video on why you're a juror and what it's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And we got a little break.
That sounds fun, by the way.
It was exciting in the fact that you get to be involved in this process. I think that's one of the beauties of jury duty is that you're doing your civic duty, but you're also, it's an inalienable right to be judged by your peers. So we get a little discussion from a judge who personally I think was stalling because they weren't really done upstairs yet with everybody. So about 9:30 or so, we are lined up in an order which is random. Uh-huh. I am at this point juror number 24 on this particular case, and the first 20 jurors will go and sit in the jury box.
Were you disappointed? I would have wanted to be in the box.
No, I was cool.
Oh,
I was good.
All right.
So the rest of us are sitting on what I would call church pews. You know, let's get some taxpayer dollars and put some cushions on some of those because that was a long time on that pew. And the judge, we were warned that there were going to be very personal questions.
What was the most personal question?
I think it was, have you ever been a victim of a crime? And if so, what it was. And there was one woman who had not been sexually assaulted, but her sister had. And there was a lot of questions about, have you ever been on a jury before? And was there a resolution? Are you currently involved in a dispute of any kind? The particular case that I got on was a drunk driving issue. And so he did ask a lot of questions about how do you feel about alcohol? How do you feel about drunk driving? And this process took about an hour. So between the two attorneys who have the right to dismiss as many of these people that they find unfit to be a peer of this person on trial, and then ultimately they got down to the 12 that they needed.
Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 you want to get out of there and 10 you're watching Law & Order, how interesting was this process you were watching?
Probably a 5.
Oh, okay.
It's
moderately
interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting process. But, you're never going to see these jurors again, so I don't really care what their lives are like. You know what I'm saying? I just either pick me and get on with my day or let me go. And so after the 12 had been chosen of the 20 that were in the box, the rest of us were all released and sent back down to jury services. And once we hit jury services, we were told we needed to wait because the other trial, which was scheduled to last 7 days.
Oh, that would be fun. I would love to be on that.
Had not pulled enough jurors. And so they were systematically sending jurors down in groups of like 5 that had been dismissed. And we needed to make sure that they had a big enough jury pool to complete their jury process. So those being dismissed from that trial got to go home immediately because our trial had already picked its
right.
12 people. But the rest of us sat around and waiting to make sure we weren't needed. And probably about noon or so,
wow,
we were told,
4-hour process.
We were told that we were done. Now, the good news is for my swell 4 hours, I get $22 whopping dollars.
That's not even minimum wage.
No, but I could have donated it back, and I probably should have with a big sign that said "Put cushions on the benches."
Yeah, really. They wouldn't have done that. They'd have been like, "Thank you very much."
So yeah, I mean, then the beauty of this is that because the trial that I was pulled for originally was only going to be a day or 2 in length, once I was dismissed, I was done. So I didn't need to call in the rest of the week, and I did not have to go in the rest, and I'm free and clear for the next 4 years.
I cannot wait. If you're listening in Waukesha County and you need a juror, I'm like excited.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Why?
They go through that saying that you are not allowed to volunteer for jury duty. It is a DOT pull. It is pulled from the Department of Transportation.
Well, maybe somebody at the DOT can. I'll grease their fingertips a little bit.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters, the podcast.
You're amazing. You need to come to Hollywood. I'm going to make you famous.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
I just had a fan get a tattoo of my signature on their arm.
Are you kidding me?
I continually will get stopped. You were on Blue Bloods, weren't you? Can I take a picture? We're gonna. Oh my God.
I definitely declined signing body parts.
Oh, I don't want to go there. That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
We want to welcome to the show this week Michael Maize. How are you today, Michael?
I'm doing great. It's a nice, normal, sunny day in California, and all is well.
That's excellent. That was going to answer my question because I didn't know if you shared time between New York and LA because I saw that you spent some time there.
I do, and it's about 5 years ago it started being more 50-50, and then in the past couple of years I've actually been in New York more than LA, even though my house is here in LA. But I'm presently here, and then I leave tomorrow actually for New York to film the next episode of Happy.
Well, before we get into some of that, since we taped this show in the Milwaukee area, we wanted to highlight the fact that you share Milwaukee as a hometown as well. So our first question naturally has to be, can you share some of your experiences growing up in Wisconsin for the audience?
Yeah, that's so crazy. I didn't even know that correlation was happening, but I'm from Franklin, and I was basically raised in the same house for 17 years. I went to public schools in Franklin, and then I went to Pius High School for high school, obviously.
My wife went there too, so you share that alma mater.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, both of my brothers went to Marquette, and my parents were really into the idea of sending us all to private as opposed to public once we got to high school. And I liked that Pius was co-ed, number one, and then I also had a drive for the fine arts that was starting to stir in my blood, and I just felt like Pius was a little bit leaned more in that direction, so I really liked that. And so in Pius, I still was really focusing on science and math, which I loved, but we had a great choir director that came in that year. Her name is Bonnie Scholes. She's still actually there. And through her, my love for theater and voice and choral music really started to develop and become great with her, and I really just enjoyed her, and she really instilled a professionalism but still had a sense of fun and enthusiasm with everything. And so that developed through Pius, and by the end of when I was a senior there, I was in Hello Dolly as the lead, and I had kind of worked up to that point.
Nice.
And that was a great experience. And then I kind of carried that over into college. My parents also owned a George Webb's restaurant.
Really?
Ooh, one of our favorites.
That's pretty cool. Where was
yes.
that? What city was that one in?
So that was very implemental in my upbringing. It was on 76 in Rawson.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
The one out by Southridge.
Yep.
And I think they bought it when I was like 2. So I always joke that I was pretty much working by the age of 5. I was filling like buttercups and syrup cups and things in the break room while my mom would be working before I went to preschool and stuff. And I started dishwashing at 13 and then waitering and cooking on the weekends and even in high school. And it was actually really, I mean, there was times when it was grueling and annoying, especially in my teenage years, but both of my brothers worked there, and I think like 5 of my cousins worked there. And then probably 10 of my friends from middle school and high school were there. And so it was a lot of fun. I mean, it would be Saturday, it would be like slam being busy, and we'd be on the grill, 4 of us singing songs from Greece or something.
How fun.
Yeah. And I think that really installed a great work ethic in me, to seeing my parents run a 24-hour restaurant and working there for much of my childhood, and I think that definitely carried on into the rest of my life. But yeah, that was a huge part of my Wisconsin experience. And I had 2 older brothers, and so towards the end of high school, one of them was at UWM, and so I started to branch off more into Milwaukee and hang out with him at his house there, and start to experience more of like the downtown scene a little bit with his fake ID.
Because we all did it.
We all did it.
Down at Timers, dancing on the tables.
Yeah, doing shots of like McGillicuddy.
Yes.
And that was kind of that. And then I went to college south of Chicago in Decatur, Illinois, at a university called Millikan University. And then from there, I went to LA with all intentions to go to New York, but I got a job in California, so I ended up on the West Coast.
I was wondering that because you majored in musical theater, minored in dance, so I thought, well, hey, he's going to head to Broadway, but that's not what that's not what you did.
Yeah, and I actually started with the intention of becoming a doctor, and I had a pre-med major, and but because I was in this scholarship program where you had to take an honors class every semester, I didn't have to take any EGE classes, and so I ended up taking a lot of theater and music classes, and my advisor was like, you're basically double majoring. So I became a double major in pre-med and musical theater, which really is like a quadruple.
Well
exactly. a singing pediatrician.
There you go.
Long story short, my passion for theater really overtook my passion for sciences, and while my talent was really developing and becoming more comfortable in my skin with that, and I started getting a lot of parts, and it just became clear that that's the direction I was going in. And then there's a regional theater audition called Midwest Auditions, which they hold in St. Louis every year, where you audition for like 150 theaters at once.
Wow.
And I got an offer in Texas and an offer in California, like on the PCH on Central California on a beach, basically. And I was like, I'm going to take that one.
Oh, yeah.
after just working so hard in university with a musical theater degree, which is a lot of work because you really are majoring in dance, singing, and acting. So while I was up there in Central California, I had an aunt in Beverly Hills, and I had a roommate all set to go in New York, one of my friends from school, and I had those intentions, but I felt it would be smart to just spend a month or something in LA to see what it was about. And I got a commercial agent during that month, and there was a lot of attention all of a sudden for me and my look and what I was doing, and it felt like I shouldn't leave. It would be kind of dumb to go while I had some attention going my way. And
yeah, you don't want to break that momentum.
Commercial. Yeah, and I booked a commercial, and I think I did the Power Rangers within that first year, and then the Jamie Foxx show guest star happened, and there was definitely a momentum, and I said I would always stay here until that momentum shifted. And LA ended up being a complete different world than I thought it would be in my mind. I kind of had more of a Miami version of it in my mind, and just a little bit smarmy and people not really being grounded. And there are those people here. There is that sense, but really the majority of the population of LA is a melting pot of artists from all over and who are cool and nice and real. And I fell in love with it, and I wanted to stay. While I started taking some classes in film and TV and learning about the whole new world of acting that is, which was challenging, but it also really opened me up to a new style of acting, which I really enjoyed. And I really grew a new love for film and TV acting, which I had never had before. And it just slowly but surely continued to go well. And then it was just 5 years ago that there was a lot of production happening within the TV and film world now in New York, as opposed to it just being theater. So I got an agent out there, and a lot more auditions were being put on tape, and I felt it would be a good idea to have someone on the East Coast. And so I started going there for 3 months and doing some auditions and coming back and going for another 3 months. And I wasn't booking anything, frustratingly. Like, I mean, Blue Bloods, I think I auditioned for 8 times or something.
Wow.
And I was still getting work in LA, but nothing there. It's a smaller circle. I felt the sense that you really have to break the seal there and get into that family. And my agent was finally like, look, you need to give us a year. They need to know that you're really here, that you're not just like doing this half-ass, and give me a year. So I did, and sure enough, after 3 months, I booked Blue Bloods and Blacklist like the same week.
Wow.
At the same time. And I filmed those, and then it was that casting director of Blue Bloods who cast Mr. Robot, which was like the following spring, I think. And then it's been growing from there. Once you're in that family of New York, then you really feel that support, and people really, really do push for you. Funny enough, it's that same casting director, because there's lots of casting directors, but it's the same casting director who cast me in Blue Bloods, Mr. Robot, then Gotham, and then now Happy.
That is a small world.
I
You
know.
run into one person doing so many projects that have really brought you to where you are.
I would say that the Jamie Foxx show was the first real thing that I got, with a guest star on that.
Can we go back and talk about that a minute? Because you got that in the late 1990s.
Yeah.
And there's no cell phones, there's no internet. So how are you getting these jobs? I picture you standing next to a payphone.
There's a pager. I had a pager.
It's a pager. Fantastic.
What's a pager? It's this little box on your belt.
Yeah.
Vibrated. But yeah, I had a pager.
Okay.
And there'd be payphones everywhere, and there actually were payphones at the time, and then you would get, like, I don't know if you remember, but there'd be 911 pages where
Yes.
So yeah, pager, like the phone number comes up that you have to call. So
Sure.
it'd be like your friend's paging you, and I better pull over and call my friend. And then if it was my agent, usually it was like star 911, which meant there's an audition. Or
Like
you're
right
booking
now,
or
call me right
something.
now.
Yes, and I have a memory of where I was when I got, I think, that first commercial, which was a Pizza Hut commercial. I think that was the first job I ever got.
Okay.
And now that we're talking about this, I actually remember where that payphone was at the time, and just like the excitement of hearing this on the payphone. And yeah, it's such a crazy world, and to think about that. And it's also relieving to think that, that's all you would have, to just not have a constant phone at your beck and call. But
I think what she was trying to go to as well was like networking. I mean, how much more difficult was it for you to start with networking than it is even now?
that's what's funny about technology is you always just know the world that's in front of you, and you just deal with that world. But I've always been a big networker, and I'm always super persistent and just don't really take no for an answer and really try and get myself out there. So there were some particular outlets. One of the biggest things you do is they're called casting director workshops, and you basically like pay $35 to come in with a casting director and 20 other students, and they talk for a bit. You all do a scene, they give you some critique, and then you go, and you get yourself in that room and you meet these people. And actually it was Dee Dee Bradley who cast Jamie Foxx, and it was her assistant I had met probably 6 months before. I think I went in once for Jamie Foxx show, and then I went a second time and I booked that. So there was that. And then there's newspaper. Remember that thing? A newspaper. And there's a website called Backstage West, but at the time it was a newspaper, and I think it still actually does come out, but there's Backstage and Backstage West.
Okay.
And that would list like auditions and non-union auditions for like USC and UCLA, and it also had these workshops on there, and then Samuel French, which is still around, is a theater bookstore. There's one in New York and one in LA, and they have like great resources there, like casting director books, and where it lists all the casting directors right now, or casting director labels for when you send out your headshots, which I did many, many, many times at the time. But yeah, there was definitely more of an effort and a lot more money spent on
postage,
paper and postage and envelopes and headshots. I mean, I don't think I've printed up headshots now for probably 2 years or something. I would say maybe 10%, even 5% of the auditions that go on now where they actually want to see a headshot. So it's
well, that was actually one of our questions. Like, obviously you've been out there for a while and you've established a name. Are you still auditioning for roles, or are people just calling you?
Definitely auditioning. I think until you have a couple of series regulars under your belt, you don't really just get offer onlys. I've had a couple offer onlys, like Grimm. I was an offer only after I'd done 2 different shows with that casting director, but very rarely. And I have friends who have done multiple series regulars and they still audition. But they get more offer onlys, but it's really, there is a ladder,
Okay.
There is a corporate ladder of sorts that logistically, like, if you have some talent mixed with luck and you have some persistence mixed with a look, like you really, which I think is possibly my case, and that if you just stick to it, you really can go up that ladder. And I would say the next rung would really be a series regular or 2, and then you do start getting these offer onlys. And until then, you just audition and keep auditioning. But there's a step of auditioning which is what's called a pre-read, and then a producer's call or a callback. And so I very rarely will do the pre-read now. That's usually if a casting director doesn't know you, or if you don't really have any credits. So I'll either just send a tape in directly to the producers or the directors, or I'll go into a producer session where you go into the room and there's writers and producers and director, and it's usually just that final step.
Now, you tend to play the villain rather than the good guy. Is that
correct?
Is that by choice, or do you feel you've been typecast, or is that just a specialty of yours?
Well, it's definitely not a choice. I for sure just kind of go in the direction that I've been led in. I think I've been cast as the villains or character roles ever since Horace Van de Gelder at Pies High School. And
it was all started with you.
That damn Hello Dolly.
Exactly. Which is on Broadway right now, and I saw and is amazing. And with David Hyde Pierce stealing my role. He was amazing. It's an awesome production. But I have a very definitive face. I have a very definitive brow line. And that mixed with, I have a general intensity in my life, a general passion for whatever I'm doing. And I also through my math and science, I think I'm a little bit type A, and I'm a little analytical. So my approach to roles have always been, I've been really great at psychologically dissecting what this character is and then filling that skin. And I love that. I mean, that's what really gets me going with acting. And there's much more room to do that with character roles. Character just meaning characters that aren't necessarily yourself, and a lot of times those are categorized as villains. But usually, except for like maybe Happy, where it's this new role where it's really just like a graphic novel that's extreme, and these roles, like in a Tarantino sort of way, are very definitive. Normally, like if I'm playing like the guy in Blue Bloods who's accused of murder, and maybe he even did that murder, like in that world he has a reason to be doing that and justifying it, and I can't judge that character, and I go inside of that character and I find what's real about that, and then it's sitting inside of what the writer did that I'm determined to be a villain. So I think that approach and the fact that I can do that has really helped me succeed.
Served you well.
Yeah, it served me well, and I think it's a combination of looks plus my ability to really get in there and dissect that. And I've taken a lot of class, and in acting class, you really learn to become comfortable with exploring all of your emotions, whether that's anger or sadness, and really taking that part of really what we all have and showing that to the 10th degree. And that's kind of fun because I'm not like, I really am the Wisconsin Midwest good guy with a big heart. And the nice guy, that's what I am. But like all of us, we have parts of us that we would at moments love to explore and don't get to. And so within these roles, it's usually very awesome to just go into those different sides of myself.
One of those favorite moments when you were a villain, back in about 2011 or so, you were in No Ordinary Family, and I loved that show. For those of you who don't know, it was like a family. They survived a plane crash, and they end up with some superpowers. So the villain that you played, you were like able to electrocute people, which ends up killing you. But what I want to know, because I'm like a super geek about this show, was how hard is it as an actor to like act out the scene where you get electrocuted? Obviously, there's no blue lights or anything crazy going on. What's that like as an actor when you know stuff is getting put in post and you have to like react to it?
With something that extreme, I honestly, and going back to class again, where you just really become free and loose to strictly play, quote unquote play. It really goes back to childhood and playing with your friends. And I mean, we used to play Super Friends all the time, my older brothers and my cousins and I in the backyard. and like, you'd be the villain, and like, you get shocked. And like, oh my God. And you keel over and you die. And at those moments, it really, like, part of you just wants to laugh, but then you just focus in and you're not. But it's just letting yourself go over to this pretend, and to have fun with it and take it to the nth degree. So I would say that's not very challenging at all.
Okay.
In Grimm, I play like a half man, half wolf. I know that wolf isn't the correct Grimmology, but it's basically half man, half wolf. And so for that, there is a scene where I get so angry that I change into a wolf. And so they had little points on my face, these little white dots, so they can motion capture my face and then do it afterwards. And that, for example, like, I just knew in my mind that I'm going to be transforming there. So now I have the ability to go more over the top than I normally would and just kind of go crazy with it and have fun with it. And then once it starts, to just kind of notch it up to a higher degree. Because that's what, going full circle to I was talking about, learning about TV and film acting once I got to LA. Through my musical theater degree, I definitely, according to people here, I was in more of the over-the-top realm. But then when something comes along like Grimm, or even like Gotham, or even this Happy, where you're allowed to sometimes go over the top, it's a lot of fun because you're not concerned. Whereas like Mr. Robot, everything is super muted and understated, and you're just kind of really letting it go from the inside. It's fun to sometimes jump into the over-the-top realms.
You talked about Mr. Robot just now, so let me ask the question I had about that. First of all, it's a USA show, stars Christian Slater, and I really found it to be very different in a clever way. And mainly, like, they use a lot of narration in the show. So can you talk a little bit about what your role in the show was and kind of how you enjoyed working on that?
I saw the first season, and I loved it. The pilot of season 1, I thought, was one of the best pilots I had ever seen. Structurally, and just I was at the edge of my seat, and it was just a new vision mixed with kind of what's happening in the world right now, revolution-wise, with thoughts and people and conflicts. And so I was really into the show, and I was really into the tone of the show, and Rami Malek and his performance, and Christian Slater as well. So when I got the audition, I was super excited because it's always fun to get an audition for something you really like. Mm-hmm. But even in the audition, I went in, had my thing, felt like I was being understated and had the Mr. Robot tone. And the casting director was like, nope, throw all that away. I just want you to talk to me.
Ooh.
And so it was like so understated that I really felt like I was doing nothing. But that's what's tricky sometimes, is the ability to go down to the fact where like you are doing nothing is actually a very hard thing to do as an actor, to find that truth within just talking. So I definitely carried that over once I got booked and got the role. I carried that over into my performance, really just letting go and trusting this amazing writing that was happening would transfer me over. It was definitely a very intense kind of set atmosphere. In season 2 especially, a lot's happening to Rami Malek's character, and he's beat up, he's kicked, he's punched, he's constantly just in a crazy state. So there was a respect for that happening on set, and you needed to respect that quality. So it was pretty muted as a set.
Okay.
But my character was basically the sidekick to Craig Robinson, who is the opposite of that. He's a comedian. He's great fun.
Really funny.
He's super, super cool. And so we had our own fun time. But yeah, we basically were coming in to try and get in the way of what Rami Malek was doing, and to use him and his abilities to do this undercurrent of crime that we were trying to get done. So I was kind of the heavy to make that happen.
Do you watch the programs and the projects that you're in? Do you watch them when they air?
Yes, always, for sure. I know some people don't, but I always am very into it, and I kind of love it. And I mean, I don't love seeing myself, but I just love seeing how it comes out.
How it's all put together, yeah. Especially if you're going to transform into a wolf, you want to make sure you see how that happened.
Exactly. And something like, Mr. Robot, where I'd love the show, and just to see how it all panned out.
So it sounds like to me that it is pretty easy for you to go between your real life and the pretend life once you get on the set. So it doesn't sound to me like you have a hard time getting into character.
Correct. I think that I know how to transfer over well, and I have those tools, but I am the type of actor where I do like to live in that realm a little bit on set. I don't really like to get too casual and to go too outside of that space, especially because a lot of the roles I'm playing are different than me. So I don't go full method. I don't go full Al Pacino and like talking the character and everything, but I'm usually just a little bit in that zone and try and stay in that zone. Which, so there is some, I don't want to say difficulty, but that's challenging sometimes because a lot of time people are trying to pull you out of that a little bit with things you need to do or get done or change or whatever.
Right.
I find it more intriguing than necessarily difficult.
Michael, what makes our show kind of unique is our common topic of fans.
Yes.
So I want to just ask you about your encounters that you might have had with some of your fans that have been most memorable to you, either in a crazy way, like if you have a stalker, or just, something that might have happened where you're like, wow, I'm going to remember that fan encounter. So have you had something that sticks out in your mind?
I think for me, it's a bit general in that I noticed a huge difference when I started working in New York than LA. LA's a little bit more widespread and kind of everyone's an actor, everyone's in the entertainment industry. But in New York, everyone's doing something different, and people are very passionate and vocal about what they do. So, and Blue Bloods, surprisingly, I think I was recognized for Blue Bloods more than anything else, because it's such a highly watched show, especially for New Yorkers.
Right.
And when that aired, up until now still, because Blue Bloods, I think it even has its own cable station or something.
It does. Ion Television.
People will just stop me in the middle of nowhere. I'll be on a subway, or I'll be just walking down the street and be like, "Hey, Blue Bloods!"
Wow.
Nice.
Like, oh yeah, Blue Bloods. I mean, one episode of Blue Bloods. Who knew? But then from that, the other shows that I started doing there, Blacklist and Mr. Robot, I continually will get stopped in New York to be like, "Hey man, Mr. Robot, it's such an amazing show." And I think once that I was at this isn't that crazy of a thing, but I was at a restaurant, I think last year, and this woman saw me. She was there with her family. They were there from Long Island. It was like 2 sisters and 4 kids or something. And she saw me and she came over. She's like, "Hey, you were on Blue Bloods, weren't you?"
Oh my gosh.
I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, See, Joanne, I told you he was the one on Blue Bloods. Come over here. And then she like took her sister and her 4 kids. And, "Can I take a picture? We're gonna." Oh my God! And it was just like the event of their lives from this like one guest star on Blue Bloods. So it just shows you like it doesn't really matter.
So you're okay with those kind of things? That doesn't like set you off as far as like, oh, this is interrupting my meal and it's a big inconvenience.
No, not at all. I'm very open to it, and I think it's part of the game and part of just the scenario, and I'm all for it.
Now, is there someone that you are a fan of and have either worked with or wanted to work with that you would kind of not been inappropriate, but been like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a really big fan of you"?
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually very very passionate about who I do like, so I often will not say anything, but when I do see someone that I would like to say hi to, I have like a big desire to do that.
And are you nervous? Like if
I mean, and I very rarely do it actually, just because as an actor, I kind of try and respect that. I mean, there's some character actors that I see in New York now that I really look up to, like Michael Shannon and Jeremy Sisto and people that I definitely look up to. I mean, this sounds crazy, but probably the most recent experience I had like that was Bernadette Peters, which I only I have such a strong connection to that because in college I really got into Stephen Sondheim and all of his works, and I feel like his stuff is darker and meatier and was a style of musical theater that I really connected to, as opposed to some more of the more all-American shows. So within that Sondheim world, I mean, I love Sweeney Todd. I love Into the Woods. I did a research paper on Into the Woods. It was in my senior year of college, and I think that Bernadette Peters was just amazing in that, and amazing in Sunny in the Park with George. And so I recently saw the Sunny in the Park with George with Jake Gyllenhaal, and I went to that opening, and she was there. So that was a big moment for me. Of just someone actually was like, I'm not gonna go say hi to Bernadette Peters. Like, she has everybody that comes up to her and says hello to her, and like, get over here, we're gonna go introduce you. And they're like, Bernadette, this is Michael, and I was like, hi, and I actually, I think I came up with a good thing, which was just during the show, I was thinking of you the whole entire time and your performance when you did this. And,
was she grateful? I mean, was it everything that you had it up in your mind? Like, if I meet her, I hope it goes this way. Did it go that way?
Yeah, it was. I didn't embarrass myself, which is good. I didn't get all weird and wacko, and I think I ended it quite abruptly, as opposed to really going crazy with it.
Okay.
So you've got a film coming out next year that I wanted to talk about, Stano, because
Yes.
I'm a huge baseball fan. So when I read that this thing is about a future Yankees player who like accidentally kills a guy in the bar and that kind of thing, I thought, oh, this is I have to see. So what can you tell us about the project? How far along are you, and has it wrapped yet, or what's happening?
So it wrapped, I think, on last Friday, and so it's completely done. It mainly shot in the Bronx, which is where the Yankee Stadium is. Joe Manganiello, he plays this guy named Sonny, and at the age of 18, he was going to be on the Yankees. He had the most amazing girlfriend, and he got in a bar fight, and he completely accidentally, meaning he got in a fight, and the fight was intentional, but he did not mean to kill this guy, and he got killed. And so he goes to jail, and comes out of jail, and he's all set to make his life better. He starts coaching for the minors, and so the drama and the really meat of the film is just his experience of making his life better, and mainly come full circle to baseball and coaching. And I played the brother of the victim that got killed, who has multiple interactions with him and tries to get in the way of any success happening for him.
So once again, the villain.
Here he comes again.
Here I come again. But what I love about this role, and I'm really excited for this role to come out, is I feel like this is another example of, especially this guy, where it's grounded in truth. And like, my brother died, and I didn't bring about it just as like, hey, I'm a punk, like get out of here, you're not gonna be a good guy. Like, it was driven by the fact that, like, this is a guy who killed my brother 17 years ago, and I can't get rid of that feeling. It has destroyed me for these 17 years, and there's no way that you're going to succeed with what you're trying to do and not pay redemption for it. And so I that was what really drove me in it. And I remember the producers, like, when they first met me and stuff, they were just talking about the tape that I had sent in, and they were just saying that what they loved about it was how based in reality it was, and just how real it was. So what I like about this role coming out is it's a little more grounded than anything else I've done, and while still being perhaps portrayed as the villain or the antagonist, and and it's also cool, like, that all this is like, so I definitely have some interactions where I'm pushing Joe around, who is a 6'6" guy. I'm 6'5", but he's a huge guy,
sure,
and a solid guy. And on my first, I think, scene where I shot with him, it was like, me definitely pushing him around. And it's funny that, it's a very funny thing when you just jump into this reality and be like, oh, hey, what's up? What's going on? Okay, I'm going to push you now. And,
right. And Sofia Vergara is the girlfriend, right?
Yeah, so she was there also that first day. So she plays the girlfriend now, once he comes out of the jail. And so I met her, and
did you have scenes with her?
Yeah, so I do have a scene with her, and it was the first scene that I shot. It's not the first scene I have in the movie with her, sure. But yeah, there's a scene with her, and she's super cool. They're both like super grounded and cool and nice, and I think really meant for each other in a lot of ways. But yeah, I was impressed with Joe and how calm he was and collected, but yet willing to cross over into this character. And he's had this script and this project for a number of years now, so he's quite passionate. And actually, he was the one that brought Sofia in, and he had this project before he even met Sofia.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of cool how that happened.
I cannot wait for it. I'm looking forward.
But yeah,
to it.
it's what I really like about it is it's pretty much a family movie, and it's really driven by this guy and trying to do better, and there's a lot of baseball in it. So I think it's going to do really well.
Just want to finish up a little bit with some charity work that you do. Last week we had Stephanie Rice on our show from The Voice. If you don't know her story, her parents turned their back on her after she came out. And I know that you're really involved in a variety of charities that speak to this issue, one of them being the Trevor Project. So I was just hoping that you could take a little bit of time to talk about those projects and your involvement, and give a little highlight on those.
Yeah, sure. I also have come out in my late 20s, and so I had my own experience with that, and my growth from that, and the struggles with that. And so I try and be supportive to the person I was 15 years ago, and knowing how it was more difficult at that time. So I definitely try and give out to the community in terms of that. And then I think just that being multiplied with the current political world and the political atmosphere with a lot of the rights that have been established within the LGBTQ community have either technically been cut off or repressed, mixed with just a general sense of anger or homophobia that I think has been put onto fire or is being allowed again. That voice that has been pushed down, I think, within people and starting to dissolve, I think has gotten fire within it again. And so that just hits me in a very pure, direct, angry spot. And so I think the best thing to do with that is to really give back and just try and have a voice and give to the community in the best way you can. And so the Trevor Project I've been involved with for a long time. Lately, within my New York world, Broadway Cares has come up, and I've been trying to. I'm in class here. I'm in a studio in LA still, and so I try and do projects that are centered around LGBTQ and just really try and push that voice forward.
Awesome. So
and then I'm a huge animal lover as well. And,
that's right. You have a love of boxers, right?
Yeah, I had a boxer. I had to put him to sleep like 2 years ago. But I think I was raised with labs, but I think boxers are super amazing and cool and funny but I've always had a big passion for animals and love animals and so I volunteer at Boxer Rescue LA and I volunteer at this bark shelter in Williamsburg and Brooklyn and a couple other charities, especially with the natural disasters. There's a charity called Austin Pets Alive, which was helping a lot of the Texas pets find homes and find a shelter until the victims of the hurricane could have their pets again. And so I try and give back.
Nice.
We want to get a little bit more insight into your normal life. So I'm going to ask you some questions, some more normal things. So when visiting LA, tell us one restaurant that you would tell people not to miss out on.
I have many favorites, but there is a cool new Italian restaurant called Bestia, Bestia, which is downtown, and downtown LA has had a huge resurgence in the past 5 years, and this restaurant's cool because it's kind of in this warehouse district and you would never even know it's there, and then you get there and it's hopping and amazing food and a super cool environment as well. So I would say Bestia.
Okay. How about your favorite TV show or something that you're streaming that you love that you could just binge watch?
My favorite TV show of this year was Handmaid's Tale. Like, bar none, above anything else, was just the most fantastic, amazing, crazy show that's on.
Okay.
Yes. I love lots of thoughts about it, but yes, I love that show.
Are your parents and family still in the Wisconsin or Milwaukee area?
Yes. Both my parents are in Franklin. One of my brothers in Franklin, and my other brother's in McGuanago. So
you do come back to Wisconsin at some point, yes?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I've been there I used to come back like once a year, and I think it's been increasing because of going back and forth to New York, so it's kind of oftentimes easy to just stop on the way.
Okay.
So this past couple of years, I think I've been home 2 or 3 times.
Nice. Okay. And when you come to Wisconsin, is there anything besides visiting your parents you have to do?
I have to go to Cops.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we all have to eat at Cops.
I
There's one close enough to us.
What did you say?
Well, there's now 2, so there's one over here in the Brookfield area, so
Yes.
it's closer to us.
Yes. Yeah, I go to the one on 76 and Layton usually. But there's definitely usually a Cops night with my nephews where it's really, and it's not just the custard, but it's also the burger.
Yes.
I have to get a Cops butter burger.
Okay.
And then mint chip is my favorite. So it usually lines up somehow that mint chip is while I'm home.
Cool.
But yeah, so I would say for sure Cops.
because I had to get some Irish cream today.
Nice.
That's what I stopped for on the way here.
You stopped at Cops on the way here?
I stopped at Cops prior to going grocery shopping. It's not in the car freezer.
She didn't
Melting.
even,
Don't
she
worry
didn't
about
even
it.
bring me any.
I didn't bring you,
You
any.
didn't
No,
bring me or offer any?
No, I took it home and shoved it in the freezer and didn't even tell the kids it was there. I'm not sharing
Unbelievable.
with anyone, man. It's Irish cream.
Nice. Yeah, what's most amazing about Cops is I don't think I've ever been there when it's not busy.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah.
January, whether it's negative 30 or 110 or whatever it may be, it's just always busy.
Hey, we'll eat
It's-
burgers and custard anytime.
Anytime, like that is the one thing people need to know about people from Wisconsin. We can have that custard at any time.
Anytime.
Negative 30 degrees
we
out.
don't care.
We are stopping on the way home from
That's
work.
right.
I'm just telling
If
you.
the flavor is up on the board that we like, we're in, man.
Well, and then my mom works at St. Luke's, and I think, what's that old custard stand over there? Leon's? Or
Yep.
Oh,
something?
Leon's
Yep, it
is
is
great, too.
Leon's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's even crazier because
Yeah.
people wait outside. in
Yes.
10
you have to
degrees
stand in
below
line.
to get the custard.
Yep.
Yes.
In line. Yeah.
That's
But
crazy.
I get it. It helps. It helps the pain of winter.
Yes, it does. Now, are you coming back for like Summerfest or any of the festivals on the lakefront? Are you partaking in any of Wisconsin's great summers?
It's always just when I happen to come, if it's going on while I'm there. But I was there for Summerfest, like whenever it was, a month or two ago. And I hadn't been to Summerfest in maybe 12 years or something. So
Okay.
I went with my brother and my sister-in-law, and we hopped around all the stages, and it was great fun.
Yeah.
And I've been to the state fair a couple times recently as well, but this is the first time I've been to Summerfest in a long time.
2 more questions. What is something that you think people should definitely do in their lifetime?
Travel for sure.
Agreed.
Once I left the country, just really, I really became clear, like the world that really is out there. And I think a lot of times, we tend to think that America is everything and America is all. America is number one. And regardless if it's number one or not, I just think travel's an amazing thing that has opened up in the past 12 or 15 years of my life. There's a lot of deals that you can really use TripAdvisor, you use Yelp, and you just find ways to, because usually the excuse is, I don't have money, but there's airline deals, there's
Right.
Airbnbs, there's just ways to, like, even Japan, which I think is probably at least my top 3 like places. I went there, I think 3 years ago, and that's, logistically a really expensive place, but I've, found a lot of great ways to make a deal and explore Japan
Cool.
without having to spend a lot of money.
And what are you most looking forward to coming up in your personal life?
Well, I'm going to New York again tomorrow, and I think regardless, I'm just filming next week for Happy, and then I'm going to stay for an additional 2 months, and it's exciting to go back there. It's exciting to be in the New York world, especially in October and the fall. Like it's a really great time to be there, and I think on a personal level, and my friends there, and the activities I get up to while I'm in New York, it's a very exciting place to be. So I'm for sure looking forward to that.
Awesome. Well, we can catch Gotham every Thursday night. Your Syfy series Happy premieres on November 29th. And, of course, next year, I'll be looking forward to Stano. So I really want to thank you for joining us. Where can people find you on social media if they want to start following you or anything? What services are you on?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter with the same handle, which is just Michael Maize, lowercase, no punctuation. And then on Facebook, there's a Michael Maize page as well. But the Instagram is probably the one I'm most frequently on.
Awesome.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, this was awesome and so fun that you're from Waukesha.
It made it just that much better.
I know.
You can find us on social media. You can email us at hello@fancounters.com, or you can go to Facebook, search for Fancounters, and we'd love to interact with you
Oh, we'd love to hear from you.
and like our page.
Please.
Okay, so until next week, we'll see you later.
Bye.